afternoon, everybody. There you go. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Joe Wambaugh. I'm a member of the Professionalism Committee on the CBA. Today, along with Judge Candace Crouse of the First District Court of Appeals, we'll be talking about some do's and don'ts of a strong mentoring relationship. First, this is the first of a four-part series of these talks that's put on by the Professionalism Committee. So you'll see in the next few months, we'll also be doing talks by mine and Jones Jefferson about managing your career. We'll also have diversity, equity, and inclusion by Judge Wendy Cross, and then understanding history to propel your career by Ken Parker. So I hope you'll join us for those talks and question and answer sessions as well. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everybody the first part where Judge Crouse and I are talking will last about 10 minutes. And that portion will be recorded. So during that portion, if you could please have your microphones on mute, and you can also turn your video off as well. And then after that, we'll go into the question and answer session. Please turn your microphones on, turn your cameras on. Feel free to ask questions verbally. That would be great. If you want to put them in the chat, you can do that too, and we'll do our best to catch those and answer those as well. But yeah, just the first part of this talk really is just to kind of get the juices flowing, get you thinking about mentorship, and then I think we can really have a great discussion during the question and answer session. So please do ask plenty of questions. Just a really quick background before we get started, because it'll help with the discussion on Judge Crouse and I. So Judge Crouse was a longtime trial and appellate attorney and a partner at her firm before she was elected as a judge. And then I am one of two of Judge Crouse's staff attorneys here at the Court of Appeals. And then relevant here, I was also a member of the Ohio Army National Guard for about 10, 11 years. So you'll kind of see that'll kind of play, as we go through and talk. So we kind of laid this out where we have a section on mentees and a section on mentors, and we have some do's and don'ts for each one. So I think we'll just dive right into the first do for the mentees. So first, do. Define your goals and list obstacles to achieving them. The way I see this is by understanding where you want to be, you can identify how a mentor can then help you get to where you want to be. Essentially, you want to take some ownership over your own growth if you expect a mentor to invest some of their time into your growth as well. And Judge, I don't know if you had an example of this when you first kind of started out and was maybe looking for a mentor.
Well, I mean, I think we're going to get more into this. You can find mentors in various different areas. Most of the time, we're going to find a mentor with somebody that we work with. So maybe it's going to be somebody that you work with where you're looking to grow your organization. You want to make partners, you want to be a supervisor or whatever. Or maybe you're looking for a mentor just to help you navigate somebody that's not within the organization, somebody outside the organization that you can feel comfortable to talk to and help you navigate your career. So you just have to kind of think about what you're trying to do, what your goals are, and then keep your eyes open to potential people that can help you get where you want to be.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, and that kind of leads us into the next point, which is do seek out a mentor if a mentorship relationship doesn't develop organically. My biggest piece of advice here is to just get involved. So join a committee on the CBA, join Inns of Court. Like you can join volunteer with a nonprofit, even if it's not legal related, and you might meet people, other attorneys that support that nonprofit as well. I think there can be any number of places where mentorship can be found, or just relationships that you want to keep. So Judge, you have examples of places where you found mentors?
Yeah, I found mentors inside and outside of the places where I worked. I was lucky that one of the attorneys that I primarily worked for became a mentor to me, and a major mentor. I think that's kind of a situation where you can show your talents, and you can get people who are supervising you, people who are your boss, to take interest and really want to help to grow your talents within the organization and just in general. So I was very lucky to have that. But I was also lucky to have mentors outside of where I worked. And these are the people that I met doing things that Joe just talked about, being involved in bar associations, things like that, where I would strike out conversations with people. And we'll get into maintaining relationships, but I'd reach out to them later, and we just kind of developed a relationship. And they, if they see that you're working hard and you're interested and you've got some talent, they're going to most often bend over backwards to kind of help you get where you want to be.
Right. Yeah. And I'll just add, because I think we both were lucky to have in the workplace a mentor, develop organically. If you seek one out, and also this goes in this way too, but you want to seek one out that will help you grow. I was lucky enough. Judge Crouse has a criminal defense background. All of my internships pretty much in law school, or at least 2 of them, dealt with prosecution side of things. And so that was good for me, frankly, from the very beginning, to see the other side of things, to have her perspective.
And it was good for you to have yours.
Yeah. And so if it is something where you are seeking a mentor out, keep that in mind. If you find somebody that just kind of confirms your worldviews, then they might not be able to help you grow as somebody else would. Next, don't email someone you've never met and ask them to be your mentor. And so this gets into kind of how to approach asking for somebody to be your mentor. So I think it's always good to start over coffee or lunch. During the pandemic, I think it was more like a phone call or a Zoom call. That's still a viable option, but you really want to start the conversation that way. Talk to the person, learn more about their career, their interests, even their hobbies, and just kind of get to know them before you ask for mentorship.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and don't be shy to do it. One thing that Joe and I were preparing today, I say about lawyers all the time, is that lawyers have big egos, and they love to talk about themselves, and they love to tell war stories. If you ever approach somebody that you're taking an interest in and thinking they could be a mentor, and they're not nice to you, or they act threatened or whatever, obviously they're not worth it. The most good lawyers are going to be happy to share their information with you. So don't be afraid to approach them and ask for help, ask for a coffee. Most of them are going to say yes.
Okay, yeah, and then that kind of also leads into our 4th one. So do invest time and energy in the relationship. You get out what you put in. So that means you're going to have to spend time talking with this person, getting to know them before you essentially, can ask them to help you with your career. Judge, do you have any kind of examples of that, or just kind of want to elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, the one thing I used to tell all the interns that worked, well, I tell the interns that work for me now, but especially in my law firm, we would always hire student interns, and I would tell them, look, we're a small firm, we're really busy lawyers, and the way you're going to get the most out of this experience is if you stay on our sight lines and you ask us if you can come with us to court, if you're interested in a case, if you want to sit in on a client meeting, because it's not that we don't want to mentor you, it's that we're busy and we might forget. So I think, when you're looking for a mentor, especially when you're asking for a busy lawyer to mentor you, they're happy to do it. They just might not think about inviting you. So it's important for you to really work hard at maintaining the relationship with them, and then they'll bend over backwards for you. But don't be insulted if they forget to include you or reach out to you. It's not personal.
Yeah, that really the mentee is in the driver's seat there, I think. So that comes up to it's on you to put forth that effort to maintain that relationship. So after you meet, a week or 2 later, send them an email, shoot them a text, if that's appropriate, and say, hey, can we meet again in a couple of weeks? Can we follow up on our talk about your career doing this, and et cetera, my goals, whatever you want to follow up on. But yeah, I think the mentee really they have to be in the driver's seat there. Okay, so moving on to mentors, we have a few do's and don'ts there as well. So first one, for a mentor, don't give the impression that the relationship is a burden. Be available, be willing, and helpful. So the quote I wrote down is, "To whom much is given, much is required." And the way I read that is basically pay it forward. You got to where you were in your career, not only through your own hard work, but probably others. You have almost certainly had other people help you to get where you are, whether you recognize them as mentors or not. So be willing to pay that forward.
Yeah, and where I found one of my mentors was, she was actually a former adversary of mine. She was a prosecutor when I was a young baby defense attorney. She was always nice to me in court, kicked my butt a few times, but when she switched sides and became a defense attorney, she had a specialized knowledge in a certain area of law that I was interested in getting expertise in. And I reached out to her, and I don't know why I was surprised, but she really, really bent over backwards to help me. So much so that one time she was on vacation abroad and answered some questions that I had. And I said, "I'm sorry to interrupt your vacation." She's like, "Don't worry about it. We girls have to stick together." So, this is a woman that would really try to help me out. And it was just me reaching out to her saying, "Hey, you're an expert in this area of the law. I want to learn more about it." And we developed a relationship that way.
Yeah, moving on to item number 2, do offer constructive criticism and do it in the right way. And so I'll try to illustrate this just by a really quick story from my time in the Guard. So when I was a company commander, I had a lieutenant, which basically just means he was like one rank below me, still a leader inside the company though. And he was a great leader, but he was out of shape. He was failing his physical fitness tests. And so I took him into my office and we talked about it for a long time. And he kind of got his act together. He got himself back in shape. He was passing his physical fitness tests. And I think the reason, well, I don't, take all the claim for his success, but I think part of the reason that the conversation went well is because I approached it with 3 things in mind. So I genuinely cared about him and his well-being, and I made sure that he knew that whether you're my soldier or not, I want you to be healthy. I also talked about his value to the company. Like, we want you, this company is better with you here. Our soldiers are better with you leading them than, being kicked out. So this is just kind of a weak area of yours. You just need to improve this. And then I also approached it in a pretty professional manner. It wasn't a personal attack. It wasn't you failed and you're terrible. It was, you're not meeting the standard of a soldier, not to mention an officer at this point. So this is just something you have to improve at. So, and when I got out of the Guard a few years later, he came up and talked to me about that. And he said how much he appreciated that conversation and how I talked with him about that. So, and again, he got to where he is now, back in shape and doing great through his own sweat. But that is something that kind of stuck with me, and him and I still keep in touch and have a bit of I would say a mentor-mentee relationship. So I think that's just an example of how you can offer criticism, even criticism that honestly can be kind of hard to hear, but do it in a way that is effective.
I think that's a great example. I think a lot of people have a hard time figuring out how to do that. But also on the flip side, I know we're talking about mentors, but mentees need to be open to accepting criticism as well. Because if you're not, your mentor is just not going to bother.
Yeah, definitely. So number 3 for mentors, do share your successes and your mistakes. Judge, I think you have some thoughts that you wanted to share on that specifically.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you got to tell people where you failed, where you messed up. I mean, that's how they learn. You can't just paint yourself as this perfect former trial lawyer or whatever it is that you did. All of us mess up. And I think that our mentees will benefit from learning from our mistakes.
Yeah, and I'll just add, because I think these kind of questions might naturally flow from that, is what if I am my mentee's boss, or we work in the same organization? Will that make me seem less competent? And to them, right? So my answer to that would be is that we've all made mistakes, and I think your mentee will appreciate the fact that you're sharing that mistake and you're being upfront with them about it, as opposed to trying to inflate yourself and act like you're perfect and how you've gone about your career. I think a kind of a good quote is, weak leaders hide from mistakes, strong leaders learn from them and then move on. And I think you can learn from them, and you can help your mentee learn from them too, so that they don't have to experience the same pain that you felt in whatever mistake that you made. Okay, and then our fourth one is, do develop your mentee's competence. So a mentor is uniquely positioned because they've reached a certain level in their career, and they know what it takes to get to that level and to succeed at that level. And so they can help a mentee identify gaps in their knowledge, or just kind of obstacles to what it's going to take to get to that level. So be willing to help your mentee fill those gaps.
Yeah, and these relationships take time to cultivate. They take years. And you'll see, as you develop your relationship with your mentor will become just naturally more and more involved in your life. And they're going to be offering you more and more help. So maybe at the very beginning, you might have to catch their attention and send them emails and say, hey, can I grab a coffee? Can I shadow you in court or whatever? But pretty soon, once you have this tight mentor-mentee relationship, that's where a lot of benefit comes from, because that you're going to be on this person's radar all the time. They're always going to be thinking about what they can do to help you. So it just takes time to cultivate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think we just have one more. I kind of threw this in its own section at the end, just a tip for a hybrid work environment, because I think that's what we're all either working in right now or going to be working in soon. Is sometimes my boss is in the office, sometimes my boss is working from home, same for me. So as far as how you approach it, it might have to be over Zoom, it might have to be over phone, it might be in person, but the core of a strong mentorship is still the relationship. So I think as long as you keep the focus on that, you can still achieve it. You just have to go about it in different ways. Yeah, you might have to be over Zoom, you might have to do it over the phone, but the relationship can still flourish.
And I think, a lot of us are enjoying the flexibility of being able to work from home. We can roll out of bed and just start working. We don't have to deal with traffic and whatnot. But I think if you want to, whether you're a mentee or a mentor, you do need to be there. You need to be present. And, as Joe and I were preparing for this, I was working from home several days a week, but you don't realize as a mentor the impact that you do have on the people that are in your office. I mean, that's kind of part of your job. I think that's part of my job as a judge, I think, is to mentor people. And as a mentee, you can't work from home all the time, or else you're not going to get that face time. And the face time is important. I mean, Joey, we were talking about this, the conversations that we have after hours sometimes, that's how you develop your relationship. He'll walk into my office toward the end of the day and we'll just start chatting, not necessarily about work, just about life. So, unfortunately, Zoom doesn't really provide for that very easy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, great point. Yeah, you miss out on some of those, I don't know, maybe incidental, secondary type of interactions, right? Well, yeah, so that concludes our short talk. And so I would invite everybody to start asking some questions. Feel free to unmute yourselves, turn your cameras on, or type them into the box. But yeah, we're here for your questions, so please ask away.